You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Today I want to talk about the debt ceiling issue that just happened, and also a little bit of the fallout that we've seen in the last few days coming to that. But it's Wednesday, it's midweek. I want to give you an update. Now, I promised that we would talk about this. There's been a lot of issues around the debt ceiling. What does it mean? What does it not mean? What did this deal get us? What it didn't get us? So I'm going to spend a short podcast today here in just a minute. We're going to talk about the debt ceiling. And really what it means for the spending going forward and some concerns that I have. But I can't not stop today's podcast without talking about the massive deal yesterday struck by PGA and LIV Golf. It is interesting to me, though, if you've ever wondered about the message coming from mainstream media. I watched the Golf Channel. I watched several of the other mainstream medias, and all of them, talked about PGA, the World Golf Tour, and then they would put the Saudi name, the private investment fund, PIF, and then in parentheses put LIV Golf. It's just amazing to me that they continue to push, and rightfully so. I'm not saying it, but in the sense that the Saudis don't need to be held accountable. They do need to be held accountable, and they played this. But it's interesting that even these diehards won't even just use LIV Golf and know that LIV Golf is the Saudi investment. They have to make it the PIF and then Saudi investment in LIV Golf. So again, something you got to know the fallout is awful on this. You got to know Jay Monahan has no chance, PGA commissioner, of staying on. I mean, can you imagine? In 2 years they have upside down turned the golf world. And it's been, again, it's going to be interesting to see where this all comes out. We'll see it as it goes forward here in the weeks to come. But I couldn't start off the show without talking about it. And, are they, it appears they're still going to operate as 3 tours at this point. Why would anybody stay on the PGA Tour if LIV is still going to be paying off the obscene money that they're paying out? I mean, why would LIV golfers only come back 4 weeks a year, for the majors? I mean, it's just a lot of little stuff that's going to be going on. To see how this is running. And, and will there be interchangeability? Will LIV has the teams and has this individuals. Will they be able to actually come back, like a PGA player? If a LIV golfer can come back and play on the PGA Tour, can a PGA Tour golfer go play on the LIV tournament one weekend? All still to be determined. At the end of the day, folks, it's like everything else in the world. Follow the money and you'll find out what goes on. No different here in professional golf. But right now, though, after this break, we'll get back and we'll talk about the debt ceiling. Hey, everybody, you know about Legacy Precious Metals. Legacy Precious Metals, you hear from them. We talk once a month. We talk about Legacy Precious Metals, talking about precious metals being part of your portfolio, how they're your navigator. Well, now they're not only navigating in a new way, they're actually giving you a new way to buy gold and silver. In fact, Legacy Precious Metals has developed a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in real gold and silver online. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped to your door. I'm more of a ship to my door kind of person. I enjoy having them with me, but they can do it either way, and you can now do it online. It gives you real access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time, anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar. This puts you in complete control of your money. This platform is free to sign up for. Just visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and is against a volatile stock market. A true diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but a different asset class. This platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Remember, do as I have done. Go to legacypminvestments.com and get started today. And now you've got a new tool to help you along in your investments. Hey folks, My Pillow is excited to bring to you their biggest bedding sale ever. For a limited time, you're going to get the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, a set of pillowcases for only $9.98, and rejuvenate your bed with a My Pillow mattress topper for as low as $99.99. $99.99. Get a mattress pillow topper. Look, they come in all sizes. They got all kinds of stuff. Blankets. They've got duvets. They got quilts. They got comforters. They got body pillows. They got bolster pillows. They got all at big, big discounts. And also, they're extending their money-back guarantee for Christmas until March 1, 2023, making them the perfect gift for your friends, your family, and for everyone you know. Folks, and just from a personal note here, I have the Giza Dream Sheets. They're on my bed right now. I slept on them last night. Some of the best sheets that we and Lisa and I have ever owned. They are worth, I mean, at this price, they're a steal. My wife and I have bought bed sheets, linens at much higher cost. It's supposedly much higher quality. These from My Pillow are at the highest of quality, and at a price like this, you can't beat it. So go now to mypillow.com, use promo code Collins, Collins, or call 1-800-986-3994, and you'll get huge discounts on all the My Pillow bedding products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, and get all your shopping done while qualities last. And remember, put in that promo code Collins for these discounts. All right, let's break this down. And I'm not going to be harsh on either side. I think this was and we talked about this briefly here on the podcast. The debt ceiling debate, let's just be very frank about what it is to start with. Let's just set this up, talk about it, and say, if you are not to go over the debt ceiling, then you would not be able to do that. You would not pay bills that are currently due. Let's get this out of the way early, because I heard a lot of people out there, conservatives, others, liberals, well, just don't pay the bills. Well, okay, let's make up. Most of your federal budget is payroll. A lot of it. Okay, over 50%. I'm still trying to search down an exact number, but most of these agencies, most of everything you see is payroll. So if you're coming up against your debt ceiling in your personal life, then you just got to quit spending money or pay down, the debt that you've already incurred. Either way, you've got to not do something to get over that number. The same is true with federal government. We like to make this complicated, but it's really not complicated. It's not like, and I heard some people not like the analogy of the credit card, but the truism is either you quit spending money and stay below it, or you raise it and spend more, and just ignore it. And the problem is just raising it means the only way you can really get there is to stop cold turkey spending money, which means people will not get paychecks. Agencies will not be able to buy stuff, and that's the only way you can do it. Why? Because we've already pre-spent this money. We've already said in the appropriation process, we're already going to spend this X money at Department of Ed. We're already going to spend this money at the Defense Department. We're already going to spend this money in the legislative branch. It's all there. So, and looking at this, I need you to understand that this is not a simple solution. And don't tell me it is. If you tell me this is a simple solution, it tells me you're a simple-minded person who's not willing to deal in the complexity of what our federal budget is. Now, you can tell me don't spend. Okay, well, which department are you not going to spend money on? Which place are you not going to spend money that has currently already been allocated, already been hired, already been promised? Just like if you showed up at your neighborhood Quick Trip and you were working as an attendant behind the counter, and the Quick Trip said, we really need to cut our spending back because we're not going to borrow any more money to pay for payroll, so we're not going to pay you today. But please work. It ain't going to work. Again, I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible to help you understand that there's not easy answers. Now, can you get solutions out of a debt ceiling leverage? Yes. Okay, that can happen, but you've got to be understanding of what's actually going on. The reality of what went on is the House, many of the conservative members and many people across social media and everywhere else, were real quick to jump on the House bill that was passed a few months ago, which, by the way, I give McCarthy credit for, to get that actually passed, to get enough people on there. But when you, in this kind of environment, with this kind of stuff going on, when you're able to pass a bill like that and you pass it with only Republican votes, it means that the bill probably has no chance in its form to actually pass the Senate or pass a Democrat president. And don't tell me, well, we'll just do it and then they'll force the debt and everybody will blame them. No, they won't. And that's been proven over and over and again. I have no idea why conservatives so many times rail against the mainstream media about not actually reporting and being shields for the liberals. But yet when it comes to something like, oh, well, if we just hold out, the media will say it's the Democrats. Bull. It doesn't happen that way, folks. So if, I don't care if you're a member of Congress or Joe sitting at the Waffle House, that ain't the way it works. You can't, and again, your own actions are the hypocrisy here. You can't complain about a media that won't report things fairly and is shields for the Democrat, and then all of a sudden think that they're going to turn and the American people are going to hear a different message that actually turns their attention to say, well, it was the Democrats that caused the problem. They're not. Okay. I'm a little frosty today about this because I want to see us get back to understanding that the real issues that we have, and there are real issues, come in the appropriations process and how we spend money. And yes, the previous administration, it went up a great deal because of COVID spending. Trump administration added to the debt ceiling. I'm not denying that. I was part of those Congresses. It happened, and the debt ceiling raised a great deal because of COVID and because of the spending that went along there, which was unchecked and unbalanced spending. It also went up under Obama. It went up. Look, as long as you have a budget that is not balanced, the debt ceiling will increase that year. If you have a budget that is balanced, the debt ceiling will, in essence, stay the same or not grow. It'll just stay wherever the ceiling is at that point. The only way you bring down a debt ceiling, and this is fact, not fiction, is in a budget plan, which, by the way, includes Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and then everything else you know about the federal government, defense, and everything else. Then you just simply have to sit back and say, okay, we're going to have, and I'll make this very simple. We got $1 million coming in this year. We're only going to spend $900,000, and that other $100,000 we're going to use to pay down the debt. Only way it happens. Only way it happens. So quit telling me about your mechanical tricks and your 1% growth increases and everything. It's just not happening. Until that happens, the debt ceiling will have to be increased, or you will have to make major changes to how you do your year-to-year budgeting, which brings me to another issue. And there are things about this that I want to talk about. Freezing funding at 22 level or a 23 level does not bring down the debt. It only slows the increase of the debt. Okay, let's get this out of the way now. And you say, well, Doug, that's not true. We're going backwards. We've cut spending. No, you haven't. You've cut growth. And look, I've been there. I've had these arguments. I've tried to have these arguments before, but let's just be frank about this. You're not dealing with the debt long term if you're freezing spending. Why? Because the 22 budget was out of balance. The 23 budget is out of balance. How are you supposed to make progress on something in which you're inherently passing a document that is out of balance to the bad? I know I sound a little, like I said, frosty a little bit this morning. I'm a little bit exasperated because it's like we forget basic economics here. I think it's one of the things right now that is sort of like for us older people, so to speak. And I say that with a tongue in cheek. Balancing a checkbook was very good for most people because they realize here's how much is coming in, here's how much I've written out, and here's how much I've got left. Well, most people don't even balance checkbooks anymore. Couldn't show. The younger generation might not even know what that looks like. But it's important to know in Congress it's the same dynamic. How much comes in determines how much you should spend. It doesn't determine how much you actually spend because Washington can borrow and print money. Are you getting the picture now? Look, go and complain and don't like McCarthy because he cut this deal. Don't like it because more Democrats voted for it than Republicans voted for it. Whatever. This is probably about the best they could get. The reality is, if anybody out there seriously, legitimately thought that the bill that was passed in the House back in March was the bill that was going to get enforced in this, I'm sorry, you're living in fantasy land. Is it a good model to shoot for? Yes. Is it some things that needed to happen? Yes. But to think that this was going to be passed as held. Now, if you had other conversations and some of the conservatives now, after they held up the legislation this week, and right now they're holding up everything because they're mad at McCarthy for supposedly reneging on side deals or unwritten deals, then that's a whole different issue. And I think it gives the clear problem that I stated on this show a week or so ago, that the real issues are going to come in the debt ceiling. After the debt ceiling are going to come in the appropriations process and trying to pass all 12 appropriations bills. You got to get 218 Republicans to pass all 12 appropriations bills. You may get a few Democrats. You may not get a few Democrats, especially if you put it out as a Republican-led bill. And it doesn't have the stuff that the Democrats want, which means you're going to have the 218, 217, whatever the number is for appropriations bills to be passed, which means that is everybody except 3 people. 4 people if Chris Stewart still stays at that long. So all of the folks who, the 10 or 11, 12, 20, whatever it is that say, well, we got to have this, and I'm not going to vote for this, and I'm not going to fund this, and I'm not going to fund that. How you get to 218? Yeah, you don't. And so, at that point in time, I am not optimistic that you won't see some kind of a year-end spending bill still, an omnibus, cromnibus, however you want to put it. Why? Because I think they'll do their best at trying to pass all 12. Folks, there's a bill called Labor and Health, and this is the one that is always controversial because it has funding in it for, healthcare services. Abortion's always tied up in this debate. It's just a lot of things going on. Republicans never passed that bill standalone. Well, I was there. I was 8 years. Never passed it standalone. In fact, we would pass 6 or 7 budget bills, and we'd get to that one and say, well, we can't pass that one. We didn't have the votes. And that's the only place that you're going to start actually dealing in bringing down the spending number. And I know that we focus on these non-discretionary spending, which is only about 15, 16% of the total budget. Remember, Congress doesn't even vote on almost 80-something% of the spending that goes out the door in Washington, D.C. because we don't want to talk about Social Security. I'll use the Joe Biden, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. We just don't want to have the honest conversation about it. We got to quit, worrying about scaring people to death. Democrats can't worry about, Republicans can't worry about Republicans being cast in ads where they're pushing granny off the cliff. And Democrats have got to realize that you just can't continue down a socialized medicine path or a socialized path in which government takes care of everything. And it was based on a system in which people paid in to take care of those who are already getting out, and you don't have enough people coming in to take care of it anymore. So I get it politically. It's really good to make sound bites saying, oh, we're not going to do anything about that, but fine. Then do not say a word about the debt ceiling. Do not say a word about an unbalanced budget. Don't. What else is in the bill? And again, let me go back to some of these caps and stuff. This is 1% spending cut across the board. Be very careful of that, folks. This is so much like sequestration, which happened in 2011, 2012. When I came in, they introduced sequestration. We did have cuts in the budget. The budget was actually going down. We still were at not a balance, but it was going down. Why? Because we were forced spending cuts because we couldn't come up with bills. And because of the cut that was mandated by sequestration legislation. But by 2017, when Donald Trump came in, we were looking at F-18s in the Navy that over a third to half of their fleet could not fly. Why? Because when you take 1% across the board, that means Department of Defense takes a 1% total cut. Everything else in government can spread that out over a 1%, which means that most departments don't really see much of a difference. You can't tell me that the Department of Defense spending is not a higher priority than a Department of Energy or Department of Education, especially, or some of the Commerce or others, where they're doing promotional programs. But that's what happens. Other things in this deal that are not bad. I mean, work requirements. Why are we even having a discussion on work requirements? This is the dumbest thing I've ever had through my life. If you're going to get food stamps or you're going to get assistance, temporary assistance for needy families, these kind of emergency cash, and you're not working and you're able-bodied, you ought to be able to have to apply for jobs. You have to actually go out and find jobs and not simply depend on the government sending you a check every month. And I know there's a lot of discussion here and there's a double taxation issue. Get into it, but at the end of the day, nobody understands. And unfortunately, it pits people who actually need the temporary help, who need that kind of help, makes them look bad, especially for those who are actually using the system as it should, as to get them by so that they can then go out and find a job and get back on their feet. Again, don't fall for this right now in what we're seeing happen. But people ought to be able to work. So they raised it from 49 to 54 for people without children, who are able-bodied to be able to complete work for food stamps. But here's the interesting thing. the expanded limits will sunset in 2030. They couldn't even put these in permanently. 2030, these things go away. Again, they did do some exemptions for homeless and veterans. Again, just not an issue. They did get an energy permit. I thought this was fun. This was really funny because Senator Joe Manchin, who had wanted this fast track approval on an energy product in West Virginia, they got it in. The Republicans got it into the deal and sort of cut Manchin out of it. I think there's still a fallout from last year's bill back Manchin, or the Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with inflation, in which he was trying to get this, and he got played, and it didn't come in. Now the permitting is going to take place. Democrats are not. Manchin's not able to take as much credit for it. But really, in the bigger picture, besides that one, issue, it doesn't cut into the permitting procedures all that much. It's process efficiencies in decade. I mean, this is, again, you're just taking a lead agency and putting them in designated. You're not really, slowing, speeding this stuff up. So at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to see a great deal come from this. And by the way, all of the clean energy funding and everything from the Inflation Reduction Act is still applicable. So we didn't get any of that. We did claw back. The Republicans were able to get clawbacks from the COVID. Don't know why we didn't do this before. COVID clawbacks are simply money that was not spent in states. Take it back. If the states hadn't spent it in 3 years, and the COVID pandemic has been over for at least a year, in most people's minds, it's been over than that for most of us for a lot longer than that. But if you're not able to spend the money, then it comes back, and I think that was something that needed to happen, because actually what was happening, they were starting to use the money for other things. It was that largesse of money that was sent to the states. Now they're using it for other things. If you want to take it back, take it back. The IRS cut. I heard so many Republicans talking about cutting out the spending for the IRS agents and the expanded IRS agents. They only cut back a little bit of that. There's still $80 billion there for that as we go forward. But as you look, the student loans, by the way, they're not able to freeze those anymore, but the Biden student loan program, which is up before the Supreme Court right now, is still intact. So you got to hope that the Supreme Court will actually rule that, a president can't just do that. The big issue, though, and I want to go back before I wrap this up, I don't want this to be long. I don't want it to be, drug out and going into the back and forth. I think I've made my point here. But the spending caps issue, if they don't pass all 12 appropriations bills, how they work that, and then also really the discussions being had by Senate Republicans and Democrats, and some in the House as well, to do a supplemental, which is outside the regular budget process, to fund defense and Ukraine and other things, is going to cause a lot of problems. Folks, if you thought this was sort of a bumpy ride, in the end, I don't think it actually was. I think this was what McCarthy, McHenry, and Graves, sort of envisioned was going to happen here. They got what they envisioned. I think they had hoped that they could have a little more Republican buy-in, but they didn't. But they got more than most would have ever thought they'd get. I mean, Boehner and Ryan would have died for these kind of numbers that he got on this deal. So we'll just see how it all pans out. But I wanted you just to understand, basically, don't get all bunged up about this deal, especially if you're a conservative. I mean, is it a bad deal? Yeah, I mean, is it something that you would want? Yeah, but explain it. It's like sitting in a room with three people and you're 2 against 1, and the majority wins. You got to have votes. And if you don't have the votes, you get the best you can get out of it. I think that's what the Republican leadership, thought they were doing. I think they oversold this when they said, we're going to stand firm and get everything we got in the March bill when we could pass it with only our votes. By the way, that bill, never got signed. It never passed the Senate. Let's a stark reminder there for you. The bill that passed the House back in March never, ever became law. If it did, we wouldn't have had some of these discussions. So don't tell me you're now going to get it in and leverage it into a debt ceiling discussion. Same problems that happened in March, same problems that happened in May. I know I'm a little pessimistic here, but this is something that's got to be fixed in D.C. If I was asked the other day on a radio interview, if there's one thing I could go back and do and fix, or if I was the only thing I could do, if I could fix it and be gone again, what would be? It'd be the appropriations process. The way we spend money in this country is just an abysmal wreck of how we should be looking at it from a I think a conservative standpoint. and a consumer standpoint. So, folks, that is your update. I promised you an update on the, not a long update, but I got an update on the budget deal, what all went on. But remember, the real eyes you need to turn your attention to, I mean, there'll be a lot of hearings this summer. You're going to hear, with Ray and the impeachment talk and all this. The thing that affects your pocketbook the most is the spending. Watch that. That'll be coming up here in the next 2 months with appropriations bills all the way into September. September 30th is the deadline. We'll see what it looks like then. Folks, we'll see you next time on the Doug Collins Podcast.